This package arrived for me today. This is the newest, the latest and greatest version of the Masks of Nyarlathotep, or Nyarlathotep if you prefer. Arguably one of the most celebrated long-form published campaigns for any role-playing system. Here it is. On the day that it was released, I bought it, which got me the PDF and a reasonable wait for printing and delivery here in December. I think Chaosium did a bang-up job on producing a luxury version of a classic campaign with some effort made to update it to their new outlook about how Call of Cthulhu is going to work moving forward. This is likely my last purchase. I cannot fault them for the quality that I know is going to be evident in here. I cannot fault them for the quickness of service. But the first responsibility, I think, of any company that produces something is to produce quality and to maintain that bond with your customers. I don't have to like this particular adventure for Chaosium to be doing good work. If Chaosium is doing good work, we'd all know it. So let's open this up and see what it looks like. If you're thinking about ordering material from Chaosium, then hopefully you also consider ordering things from the design mechanism. So if you have ordered things from the design mechanism, you'll recognize the quality of this box and the method to tape it up to protect it for international delivery. Chaosium and the design mechanism both make use of an excellent printing, packaging, and shipping service. It really can't be beat. So as I'm opening this up, I'll show you inside how the book comes better protected than pretty much anything you can expect from any other service. So take a look. There are layer after layer of thick cardboard baffles to protect it when you open it. There's bubble wrap. The box is correctly sized to the size of the product, and then all the extra gaps are filled in again with more cardboard baffling. This bubble wrap foam is in both directions thick enough to make sure that no part of the product comes in contact with the surface of the box. It's this kind of attention to detail that I really wish followed through the entire project from start to finish. Now look inside, look in with me, look how much of my hand disappears down into the box. My fingers are touching the bottom, and just look how thick this slipcase set is. The slim volume of the past is gone. Masks of Nyarlathotep, or Nyarlathotep, is huge now, and it will definitely make an impact wherever and whenever you show it. Hopefully, you'll be able to make as big an impact running it as its visual impact will cause at your table whenever you unveil it. And speaking of unveiling it, let's do that now. We've got lots and lots and lots of carefully wrapped, I guess bubble foam. Bubble wrap isn't quite the right terminology. So it's in good, thick shrink wrap. The slipcase feels very heavy in my hand. And like I said, there's many, many layers going around to make sure that it's not going to come in contact with the walls of the box. So the side you're looking at as we reveal it is the Cairo side. I prefer the other side, but again, this side is definitely going to draw a lot of attention with its bright colors and its implied motion and horror. Okay, there's a lot of glare in this room. I was just unboxing it here because if there had been damage, it'd be easier to send it back from here. And I'm going to take the box home. I'm going to take the slipcase home to do the actual opening up now that we see that everything inside the original box is fine. I'll just do a little walk around here to show you the other side. There we go. So this is the side of the box that speaks to me. Maybe the other side speaks to you, but we can both agree to disagree on which side is best and agree that, like I said before, this product is utterly stunning. Okay, let's get it out of here and take it home where we can look at it under better lighting. Voila, better lighting. Okay, like I said, very strong visual impact, very, very large. As I'm looking at my shelves in the background, I find myself wondering, where am I going to put it? So in conjunction with its vastly expanded state is, well, vastly expanded storage requirements. So, you know, I think it's worth it. But this is a campaign that's been with me for my entire time in Call of Cthulhu, and you know, it's had a significant impact on my games and gaming moving forward. This is something I'm willing to make some sacrifices for. If you're just leaping into Call of Cthulhu, this is a very, very long campaign. This takes some skill handling, and it doesn't necessarily teach you that skill, even though it has been tremendously increased in size and internal commentary. So this is definitely not your first outing. This is not a let's take Call of Cthulhu for a drive to see if we like it kind of product. This is you're starting to feel comfortable. You want to challenge yourself or push yourself, and your players are starting to get it, etc., etc. So now let's go for one of the classic campaigns of all time. So I'm not saying, hey, if you're a newcomer, don't get it. I'm saying, hey, if you're a newcomer, go ahead, get it. Read it carefully over a long period of time while you're playing Call of Cthulhu, and then when you and your group are really clicking and the games are really satisfying, then move into this product. You'll be ready for it, and well, it's already ready for you. So we've been looking at this thing from the outside for quite a while. We've looked at its name, we've looked at the art, we've looked at how big it is on the table, we're comparing it in our mind to all the other books on the shelf. It's really time to take all of this shrink wrap off, right? So here's the part of the video where I'll probably make you laugh, because I'm not going to really take the shrink wrap off. I'm going to use my handy knife, and I'm going to do what it is my habit to do with slipcase sets and a variety of other products. I'm going to just cut out a panel in the shrink wrap to protect the outer side. I like to take care of my books. I use them at the table. I read them regularly, but I see no reason why reading has to lead to damaging or destruction of the product. I do what little I can do to make sure they stay in great shape. So, yes, I recognize that this is probably eccentric or unusual behavior, but there you have it. If there's a game line that suits that, this is it. So, finally, at long last, your patience has been rewarded. We're actually going to take the books out. Now, there is another piece of cardboard in the slipcase, and I'm not sure exactly why it's there. I'm glad it's there because it prevents movement inside the slipcase. I'm suspecting that once I open the Game Master screen and supplements packet, that it's going to expand with, air. And that might be the reason why it's in there. Or it might be that the slipcase was designed with the leather versions of this in mind, which are going to be a slightly different size. It's hard to say. Either way, I'm glad it's in there. It keeps the product safe and sound. I don't know if I'll need it once everything has been opened, but we'll see. Speaking of seeing, let's take a look. Okay, so now instead of being a 1-volume campaign that you could expect to play for a year or more, it's now a 2-volume campaign that you could expect to play for. Actually, if my expectations are correct, it will actually, you'll be more likely to complete it earlier on. They have completely revised the way that the campaign has been approached, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But we've gone from this being approached from the concept of it being a challenge, how far through it can you get, to being this is a luxury campaign that you spent a lot of money for. We want you to be able to see it in its entirety. So we've done everything that we can to make sure that you'll be able to, if not get a group of investigators all the way through it, which is highly unlikely, you'll be able to more easily than ever before maintain a proper and logical influx of new characters, new avenues to start the campaign where you, quote, left off, which of course is just code for die horribly or go mad. But anyway, the idea is that more than ever before, the expectation is that a play group will be able to get through the campaign. The expectation is not that your characters are all going to make it through the campaign, and that actually leads us to some of the problems inherent in this new version, this adaptation and expansion of the original. But we'll talk about that a little later. So what we're looking at here is the screen pack. And I've got a lot of Call of Cthulhu screens, and I really, as a game master, no longer use them. So I didn't really know. This wasn't, for me, a bonus or a perk. But when I learned that all of the handouts were going to be professionally printed and bundled with it, that got me really excited. So here's our second cover, Volume 2, right? And so the campaign has been split. So that makes transport similar to what the original transport requirements were, right? You're going to be taking a slender softcover or a hardcover book with you to wherever you happen to run the game, or use it at the table. So considering that the game is now close to 700 pages, this is a benefit. I'm not a big fan of the let's split it into 2 books approach taken by some game lines, where you need 3 books to run the game or 2 books to run the game, or there's a game master's version and a player's version. This is not my preferred way, but in this case where there's so much content, it makes good sense, especially if you're actually going to be running it from the physical product. Let's take a moment to take a very close look at how well the pages are laid out. The layout in these books is head and shoulders above the layout offered in Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. The text is better organized, and it's far more legible. The watermarking is much less intrusive, and so on and so forth. Also, the art is far more consistent. Now, while the campaign has been expanded greatly, even greater effort has been made to make sure that the game master, the keeper, can keep all of that information organized and can quickly refresh themselves whenever they need to. For many keepers, it was a challenge to keep all the details straight in the original, far smaller version of this campaign. Now that it has been expanded so much, every little bit helps, and Chaosium have come forward to make sure that you can do that. Now, I keep talking about expanded material. What are we really talking about? Well, take a look at this scene where we meet a signature character in the New York chapter. All right. That occurs, this is close to the beginning of the campaign. Let's get some focus, please. That occurs on page 29. If you remember that previous shot I showed you, that was the same section in the new campaign. This is on page 25 in the new book. It's on page 125. And before everything you see on this page is revealed to you, you're going to have to go through all of these pages in the new version. I'm not citing this as a bad thing. I'm putting it in context. This is not the massive Nyarlathotep or Nyarlathotep that you have run before. It's full of full color art, of full color, well, the whole entire book is full color, so I'll stop saying full color. It's full of full-size images of the handouts, clue maps, reminders, bullet points of the important stuff that need to, be fresh in your mind. Maps, all kinds of maps, floor maps, things that you had the fun of inventing on the fly if you needed them in the old version are now in precise and exhaustive detail provided. This is one of my favorite aspects of the new printing, this incredible world map, right? And I'm hoping that that map is in one of the handouts. So what do I mean by helping you prepare? Well, you've got these sections like picking up the trail, all right? So investigators arrive in a new area. How do we connect them to their investigation? How do we remind the players? How do we help the keeper keep everything straight? And so on and so forth. Anyway, now one of the issues, I guess, that can come with a campaign that has a lot of handouts is storage of those handouts. And we saw that briefly when we looked at the massive Nyarlathotep prop set from the Howard Phillips Lovecraft Historical Society. Here, clearly, they're supposed to be able to fit back into the slipcase, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to do that. One thing that's going to help me do that is that in a much improved version than what we saw in the core rules, there is a cardboard footer that will help you keep everything in place. They're still going to expand. I can feel them expanding under my fingers as I open them up. But, pressed up against the screen and inside that cardboard footer, which I'll show you here in a second, which basically is like a VCR cassette case, for those of you old enough to remember VCR envelopes. So let's take a look down inside. It's just a box, but it's much better than the paper wrap that was provided for the other material in the core rules. So we've got the screen. It's a 3-panel, very thick, heavy cardboard screen, one of the bulletproof variety, and 96 pages of handouts. So that's fantastic, and maps as well. So that's great. And let's take a look at some of the handouts in a non-spoilery way. The reason why I've been kind of coy about showing the inside of the material is that this is such an incredible gaming experience. I don't want to accidentally spoil it for anybody. So, look, full color handouts, and yes, the corner there of the wrap for the handouts got a little wrinkled going into the shrink wrap or going into the cardboard footer. Such is life. It's not damaged on the outside. Aha, here is my map. I'm very excited that it's included. Maps like these, really make the experience for me, especially if you're willing to, mark them up a little bit to show travel, in the way that the movies would show the line spreading with progress across the map. It's a lot of fun. Now, if this is what the whole screen looks like, I'm going to be really, really happy. I don't know if it's going to show on camera, but you can, almost like it's etched or acid etched or burned into metal, we can see the world map on the other side. But this is the inside of the screen. This is not a normal screen whatsoever. These are lists of NPC names. This is travel times. This is the stuff that you, or at least I, actually need on a screen. I am really, really pleased with the screen. I thought it was just going to be another, yet another keeper screen with advertisements all over the back. But there's nothing on the art side. There's nothing about what game it is or what the campaign is. It's just evocative. So that gets top marks for me. It's high quality construction. The colors are really vivid, nice and creepy and suggestive, and then on the inside, stuff I can actually use. Fantastic. This thing has sold me all by itself. Okay, so as not to risk any more spoilers, let's try and, put all these handouts and the screen away. So that's aided by this paper covering and greatly aided by the cardboard footer. But I'm a little bit worried because inside the, what they're calling a tuck box, inside it there is of course the cardboard lip that folds in to make the box. And I'm not sure, now that everything's out of shrink wrap, that I'll be able to, easily slide everything in there without dog-earing pages or, just having it not fit. But let's give it a try, and we'll try and show this process. So this is the tuck box, and you can see, the end there. Now we've got to get these loose pages inside. So I want the screen at the back for that process, but there's still this paper overlay around everything, and it does need to go around the screen. So it has a tendency to catch. I'm just showing you this version because it is here that I am successful. Of course, it's all happening off camera. But, such is life. So simply what this tells me is that while the campaign is in use, while you're actively using it, you need to find another storage solution for the handouts. That's fairly obvious. And then while it's not in use and it's sitting on your shelf, well, you only need to put it away the once and then it's away. So not a big hassle. And I'm glad for the extra effort that went into making sure it was possible to store things better than last time. So again, top marks on the screen and handouts pack that goes in the slipcase. Just for the sake of completeness, let's demonstrate trying to put the thing away. I've done this a couple of times also without getting everything right the first time. With that cardboard addition inside, it doesn't really want to go. Right, so I don't want to keep it in between the two volumes of the book like it came. I'd like to keep it on the side, and so taking out that cardboard extra piece, it fits in nicely. There's a little bit of looseness, a little bit of play, which makes it easy to get the books out. Later on, you can slide that cardboard piece back in. Overall, I think anyone who purchases this would be hard-pressed to find something negative to say about it in terms of how it's packaged, how it's shipped, and how it looks. Really is top quality work about which we shouldn't complain. Which is not to say that there's nothing about this that is beyond complaint. I think the size is worth noting, either as a storage concern or as a preparation concern. It's not that the campaign is hard to run. As I said before, Chaosium have gone out of their way to help you understand and find material after you've read it. But it's that initial read that is going to take a significant amount of time. And this is a campaign that you need to read from start to finish. You can't just open it up and run it through in linear fashion. You need to understand the entire sandbox, to use a word, that this campaign is, especially if your intention is to usher players through it from start to finish rather than challenge them with it to see how far they can get. There is a tremendous amount of material that needs to be read, then understood, and then you'll be able to use the book to make this probably the most seamless and easy iteration of Mass of Nyarlathotep to run ever, even though it is far, far longer. Now, when I talk about longer, this is Cthulhu Dark, released recently by Graham Walmsley. It has 5 campaigns packed into it, as well as all the rules and advice for how to run the game. What we are seeing is entirely different expectations for play. Right? The original written from the point of view of challenge, investigation, and mystery. This one written from the point of view of presentation and entertainment. So while I don't personally consider to be the expanded length and detail of the campaign to be a negative, there are problems in the writing, and not so much in the writing, but in the editorial control over the writing that would minimize the conflicting tone and the conflicting approaches that are now encoded into Masks of Nyarlathotep. It's, in some sense, an incomplete translation into this new view. On top of that, even though this is very, very obviously a luxury item designed for impact, the editorial crew chosen were the authors themselves, and that is never an appropriate solution. And the text suffers for it. It's vague, it's meandering in places, it assumes things in places, it speaks in conflicting terms and points of view in other places, and of course, there are many typographical errors and layout errors that a professional editorial team could have prevented from happening in the first place. Overall, a strong editorial hand was needed to guide this project, and you can tell it's missing. Which is a shame, because all other aspects of this project are jaw-droppingly fantastic, and I'm looking forward to getting it to the table. I doubt I will run it with the 7th edition rules for reasons that don't matter to anybody but me. But either way, this is Masks of Nyarlathotep, or Nyarlathotep, writ large. This is in your face, this is over the top. A lot of the fantastic research which was conducted for the Masks of Nyarlathotep companion by 60 Stone Press is evident within, and the campaign itself has never been so deeply grounded in authentic history before. It was more of an homage to the pulp writing of some of my favorite writers in the past, and was, for obvious reasons based on technology and the research methods of the day, not culturally sensitive. Now, a lot of those issues have been addressed, not only just to redress the issues of disrespect, but also to be able to draw from this tremendous pool of historical knowledge to deepen the mystery and the wonder of a globe-spanning campaign. This is fantastic material. It's fantastic material that deserved to be put on the page in better form. And just in case, someone feels like I might be exaggerating, I'm going to pick a random page as my one example. I'm not doing this to be mean. It's not my intention. I simply want to show what actually exists in the text. And by choosing randomly, I don't automatically go to the worst examples in the text. So what I've chosen turns out to be a sidebar about Peru. The Peru chapter, well, frankly, there are issues with the Peru chapter in that I feel that was page count better spent in figuring out how to meaningfully connect Jackson Elias to a wide variety of investigators, not just the ones you start with. But we'll talk about that later. Now, this is a very important sidebar. This is at the beginning. This is all about what to do if things go astray. All right. This is something that people are going to read more than once, and it's certainly something that should have received a very careful eye. Well, the very last sentence of this part of the column has a very jarring and obvious missing word. This shouldn't have gotten past even the first round of proofing, yet it did. Why did it? Because there is so much to read and so few people doing the reading, plus the people doing the reading were the people who wrote it. They're simply not able. Layout also takes a hit in this very same column. There are no spaces in this half of the line just to make it fit. Simpler solution, remove the completely unnecessary optionally. This is what an editor does. Finally, not everybody will agree that this is a problem, but in some parts of the world, this is weak writing. So, with the possibility that the writing could have been matched to the luxury level of the rest, we now need to look at the coherence of it all. This passage I've circled shows you that it's written from the point of view that Peru is supposed to look like you're playing the game, but you're not actually going to be playing the game because Jackson Elias and at least some of the investigators have to survive. Why play through it if you have to survive? Now, you don't believe me? You don't that, it's a requirement that these things happen? Well, we've got this section here called Keeping Jackson Elias Alive, and we find that further supported by a section that says it's an illusion that this part is difficult. Now, while that approach can seem strange to older gamers or gamers from a different type of gaming, this fits with this new version of the campaign and with the 7th edition of Call of Cthulhu in general. So, why I cite it here is that a proper editorial look at the entirety of the project was needed in order to make the most benefit out of all of these pages, so that we don't have practice fighting with theory, fighting with the text. There's no need to create this Peru chapter to experience Jackson Elias in play in this way and then not actually play. So we have to protect the characters, we have to protect Jackson Elias, we have to present Jackson Elias in a way that they like, we have to basically force them to like him rather than establishing good initial characters from whom a great base of investigation can be drawn. Right? As much effort as went into these clue maps and clue diagrams and tracking handouts and this sort of thing should have been spent on character creation to prepare you for running this campaign. That would have been a better way to use the Peru material. After all, Jackson Elias is renowned for writing all of these tomes about cults and anthropological curiosities. Having artifacts that bring Jackson Elias into the campaign through his written voice could have been the type of writing which would have met the production value of this luxury campaign. Anyway, now that is not to say that the Peru chapter isn't excellent. It is. It's just presenting it in this way is at odds with actual play. And that's a shame. But although I take this part very seriously, the creation of the text is the creation of the game, and it is the reason why I am now finished with buying products from the new Chaosium until I get confidence that the text is going to be treated with the same respect that the physical products have been getting. It simply doesn't make sense to me. It is, in fact, insane that the amount of effort and cost that went into producing the visuals of this campaign were not matched by funding for a proper editorial oversight of it. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm not saying these are insurvivable errors that prevent you from being able to play it. They are flies in the ointment. They are a flaw in a tremendous tapestry, and they never needed to exist in the first place.